like a Hellcat.
Hello and welcome back to the channel where of course it's time for another Sega Saturn review, and today I have got one hell of a treat for you because I am taking a look at the action-adventure game that came out in April of 1997 known as The Crow City of Angels, and I can already tell you without a shadow of a doubt this is one of the worst games that I have ever played in my entire life.
Don't cry, Hail Mary, full of grace.
You're wasting your breath, Angelina.
One thing to point out is that I have never seen the film of this, so I'm going purely on my experience with the game, and I'm assuming the game has a similar story to the film, and that is that Ash and his son Danny are brutally killed by a gang. He is resurrected by a crow, and he's given supernatural powers to get his revenge on them.
I believe in a place where restless souls wander. Where by sadness they can't enter.
So on the menu you can see you can start a game, continue your game, check out the options, view a demo or view the credits. Heading into the options, it's pretty standard stuff. You can check the controls with the L and R buttons doing your kick and punch, start button pause. X is grab, Y is block, Z is crouch, A picks up weapons, B and C can also be used to attack as well. So the setup for the game is incredibly simple. You'll enter an area and you have to beat all the enemies and progress to the next area. That is the entire game in a nutshell. You can see you've got your health bar at the top on the left, and enemy's health bar is in the top right. You also have a crow completion marker in the middle of the screen. Now if this gets lower and you start taking too long in each area, yes, you become weaker and the enemies become stronger. One of the stupidest mechanics I've ever seen in a game. With the explanations out of the way, we need to talk about how this game looks, how it sounds, how it plays, what kind of lifespan it's going to give you, and whether it is worth playing today. Without any shadow of a doubt, The Crow City of Angels is a dreadful looking game. Whether you're talking about the character models, the backgrounds for every location, they all look shocking. The character models are made up of very few polygons. They are blurred, they are smudged, they have awful facial details, and they look absolutely shocking in every way. The enemies are repetitive as well. You see the same ones recycled over and over again. The backgrounds for all the different locations and levels look really, really poor. I mean, they obviously didn't look at Resident Evil before they made this game, because that's an example of having pre-rendered backdrops that are of good quality with your 3D character models over the top, and it works really well in that game. In The Crow City of Angels, it's terrible because all of the backgrounds are really, really bad, and there's too many of them as well. There's far too many pre-rendered images, meaning the game is cutting and chopping and changing camera angles all the time, which is incredibly frustrating. It's disorientating. You really don't have no idea where you're going a lot of the time, and it is just a massive, massive flaw in the game. I don't think there is one single redeeming feature that I can say about the graphics or animation or performance of the game. The characters especially as well, when they're fighting, the enemies look really bad. It's just unbelievable. The only one bit of half decent animation I found is when you get your character to do a reverse back kick, and that is the highlight of the entire game in my opinion, when you can get Ash to do that move, and that is it. There's nothing else I can possibly say in the looks department or the performance or the animations or anything that is positive about The Crow City of Angels. For as bad as the game looks, it sounds just as awful, which is one hell of an achievement for them to pull off, because there's nothing redeeming about any of the sound or the musical tracks within this game either. All the sound effects are very, very repetitive. They really do start to grate on you after only a few minutes of playing the game. And as bad as they are, the music is even worse. It really, really starts to destroy your eardrums after a while, and it seems to be really loud as well. It's like they almost knew it was bad and they wanted to punish you with the same tracks over and over again. I'm not going to play any of the tracks today because they're too bad, and it's repetitive and it's horrible, and there's nothing enjoyable about the sound in this game either. The odd voiceover clips in the game as well, when they call you Crowface and stuff, they are just repetitive and they sound just as bad as any other part of the game as well. So unfortunately, the Crow City of Angels is a shocker in the sound department too. So for as bad as any game looks or any game sounds, it can be forgiven if it plays a good game, and it can bring you enjoyment out of the way you play the game. But unfortunately, the Crow lets itself go here because this is the worst aspect of the game, the way it plays. Now, the control pad setup is fine with all the buttons doing their respective actions, but unfortunately, put into practice, it pulled off an absolute stinker because there's massive delays in pressing buttons to pull off certain actions, and that instantly cripples gameplay. But when you combine it with the fact the screen is constantly chopping and changing camera angles from all the different pre-rendered images, and it completely disorientates you, it really takes any enjoyment that you could have from this game away and leaves you with nothing but a frustrating, disappointing experience. Something else I've got to point out is the fact if you run into enemies which have got guns, you're pretty much screwed instantly because the computer can just gun you down. Yes, you can try and duck, but as soon as you get up, you are just shot down again. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's on easy, normal, or hard. They do it regardless, and it just destroys the game. It is unbelievably horrible to play, and there's just nothing redeeming I can say about the gameplay for the Crow whatsoever. So moving on to the lifespan of the Crow, and whilst it does have 9 levels to play through, with the final level being the last boss himself, there is absolutely zero enjoyment to be had whilst playing this game. And now usually when I review a game, I can at least pick out one positive. Even the worst game I've looked at, which I think was Courier Crisis, it had over 100 missions in the game should you want to do them. The Crow just doesn't have anything at all going for it, and the lifespan of the game is just another letdown as well. It'd probably only take about an hour or so to complete it if you could play through the game from start to finish without losing all your lives. As soon as you run into enemies with guns, it becomes insanely difficult to avoid dying, avoiding the bullets. It's just such a frustrating experience that if there was somebody out there who had played this game from start to finish without dying, then I would applaud them massively, because they must have the patience of a saint, and they must not be able to spot what a shocking game is, because there's no way you could catch me playing through this from start to finish. So in the lifespan department, the Crow is a massive flop too. The last two questions are really simple to answer, because the Crow City of Angels is not worth playing today, and no, it does not make our Saturn top 10. In fact, it is the worst game I have played out of all the PAL games so far, and I would fully imagine it is in the worst 3 or 4 games on the entire system. It must be, because it is so bad, and there is nothing redeeming to say about the Crow City of Angels whatsoever. What I am interested in hearing is people's opinions on this game. Did anybody go out and buy this game upon its release in 1997 and try and put themselves through the pain of completing the game? I would love to know if there's anybody out there who has completed this game without cheating, without any kind of action replay codes or anything, because if you have my respect. Let me know with a comment down below. And as always, I will be back in the near future with another Saturn review. Goodbye for now.
You must remain here forever.